Implementing color theory into my coding projects is one of the easiest yet most impactful additions I make that gets overlooked by most developers. Understanding standard UI conventions, color palettes, and the psychological effects of colors is a must if you want your projects to succeed. Here are 3 color theory principles that I use on a daily basis as a programmer to truly make my games, websites, and apps stand out against the competition. When working with user interfaces, it can be very easy to get carried away with aesthetics over practicality. This is where we find our first principle. Stick to the standard UI conventions unless you have very good reason or evidence to deviate from them. Text should almost always be a dark color to ensure legibility. Backgrounds should be light. And lastly, save colors like red and yellow for call to actions. Why are these conventions so important? Well, first, you have to stop thinking as a developer and start thinking as the end user. You spend all day working on the same project with your eyes glued to the same app, whereas the end user has probably seen over 130 different web pages before they finally get to yours. And the majority of these web pages, especially the most commonly used ones like social media sites, already follow these conventions. When you challenge this with an edgy design, you risk confusing the end user and making them work harder than they have to. Now, by no means am I saying don't deviate from these conventions. However, I want you to be aware of the risks that you're taking if you do. If the creative vision is worth it, then by all means, take it. That leads us into the second principle. You should always be working from a color palette inspired by one of the 5 main color combinations. For the most part, color palettes are made up of 6 colors. These colors should include 1 dominant color, 4 accent colors, and 1 standard color for your text, which is usually black or gray. Now, the important part is picking your color combinations from one of 5 color palettes that UI designers commonly use. The first of which is monochromatic, which are color schemes formed using tones and shades of 1 single color. Then you have analogous, formed by 3 colors that are located right next to each other on the color wheel. Next, you have complementary palettes, which are composed of colors that are placed right in front of each other on the wheel. Triadic, based on 3 separate colors that are equidistant on the color wheel. And lastly, you have tetradic, 4 colors from the color wheel that form a rectangle when connected. Now, why do these color combinations look good? The truth is that I don't know. The same way that this sounds good and this sounds bad, the harmony created by these color combinations is appealing to the human eye. After selecting the palette combination from one of these 4, I then select the specific color based on the effect that I want to have on my audience's psychology. Now, most people understand that the human mind subconsciously reacts and interprets colors in a way that influences our action. I create my color palettes based on 2 things. The first is a color palette that works to attract my target audience, and the second is a color that aligns with my project's story. I use orange to show energy and warmth, red and yellow as call to actions, usually when displaying warnings or important information, pink for feelings of innocence and delicateness, blue for authoritative, dependable, and trustworthiness, and lastly, green for growth, freshness, and money. Now, there are many ways to create these color palettes. One of my favorite is using the Canva color calculator. You give it a hexadecimal color code and select which color combination you want to use, and it will give you the corresponding colors that look great with the main color you chose. And with that, you should have the knowledge and the tools that I use to pick the absolute best colors for my programming project. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time.